Hi, guys. So, today, right now, we're going to be talking about child labor and its effects on the lack of education in underprivileged kids. So, just some brief information. Child labor is basically when younger children or people that are not adults yet have to get jobs and work for other people just to make money for their family. And it's not always, I guess, the best option. And people that usually have a better are in a better place in life won't necessarily have to do this. But these children do work really hard just to support their family. So right now we have Aditi who's done extensive research on this topic, and she's going to be answering a few questions that a lot of us might have right now. And she's going to be helping us understand more about this topic and maybe how even we can help. So hi Aditi.
Hi, Sunny.
So first I wanted to ask you, how exactly are the three elements, so lack of education, underprivileged kids, and child labor, connected?
So those three elements, so those three elements are connected because first of all, these unprivileged children, they often have to go to these um, minimum wage paying places to work, such as fast food restaurants. And in these fast food restaurants, since they make minimum wage, they often have to work either extra long hours or have to stay overtime to help just get a little bit of a bonus, even so that they can actually help their families. And because of this, they end up not getting the education that they need in order to go to college or get an actual job. And because of this issue in general, sometimes kids don't even finish high school because they are just taking care of their families and working so much more.
Okay, that's so. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory. So I guess a decent amount of people would know about this problem. So, what exactly are other people's and, if you can, your thoughts on this problem?
So, from other people's point of view, not many people care about this issue because they're getting their product. I mean, why should they care, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, from my point of view, I think that it is very important to think about this issue because I actually know someone. I actually know a few people that are my age and are actually working actual jobs. Now, they luckily do not have to work overtime and do as much extra labor as some of these kids that are in these issues have to go through. But the thing is, it is very important to think about their lives too because they're children and children are supposed to get an education. They're supposed to go to college, or some kids are. It depends. But they're supposed to go to college, they're supposed to get a further degree, or they're supposed to move on in life. But some of these kids, they're kind of restricted to that one single job because they have to help their families and they don't have the education to go to a different job, which can pay a bit higher.
That's a really good point. I completely agree with you, and I relate to you too. I know a few kids at my school and some of my friends that have to take these jobs at, like you said, fast food restaurants just so that they can help their parents maybe pay rent or something. But I still think it's extremely responsible of them too, and it's definitely something I guess you can look up to in a way to see how responsible these kids are and how they're helping their own families.
Exactly.
So, you said that a lot of people don't really care about this problem, but there are a few people that do. So, is there anything that's being done right now that's helping these kids and maybe trying to improve their education or their wages or anything?
Well, what I meant before by many people don't care is that those are most likely the consumers, they're most likely the customers. And from their point of view, they're just getting their food or whatever product, so it doesn't really affect them in any way. But the thing is, there are other people who are trying to help solve this issue. For example, the government is actually doing a lot, well, a good amount to help with this issue. For example, the government has raised minimum wages in the past few years. Actually, before it used to be around $8.50, and actually through the government and through many protests, they've actually raised it by $4, which may not be a lot, but it does add up in the end to 12.50. And although I feel like that is definitely a good start, we can definitely do a lot more to help out these kids, either by supporting their families with some extra money or just by raising the minimum wage to a minimum of maybe even $20, because that can also add up in the end as well.
That's completely true. I definitely do think the government should be doing a little more. Um, okay, now let's move on to something a little, well, in the same topic, but a little different. How exactly are these children finding themselves in this situation? So, like, what are some components that cause them to be in this situation?
So, some components that have maybe led to this for many kids is one, their family. A lot of the times, there are issues within their family that are happening. Some of the most common ones are probably abuse, drug abuse, alcoholism, stuff like that. It's a very serious issue, and although not all kids go through this, this is the leading cause for many kids to have to do this for their parents because a lot of the times their parents aren't in the state to work or they can't get a job because of their background because some of them are actually were criminals before, so it's very hard for them to get jobs because we also know that it's very hard for criminals to get jobs in society nowadays.
Mhm.
So this probably is the leading cause for many of these kids to be in these circumstances.
That's true. So, I guess along with that, they could also maybe their parents just don't have a lot of money, and these kids are also trying to just help them, even if they don't have some sort of drug abuse problem.
Yeah.
So, if we could link this back to what we were talking about before, how do you know that if the government helps these families and possibly like give them money, how exactly are they going to ensure that they aren't giving it to the wrong people or the money isn't going to be used in the wrong way?
So we can't exactly control this because there's a level that the government can do, and after that, it might be just invasion of privacy. But the thing that the government can do is can do frequent checkups and can really help the family by just checking up on them or checking up on their kids, making sure that they're healthy and they're safe because that's like the most important part out of all of this to ensure their safety. And just by making sure that the child is okay, we can tell that maybe the adults are kind of stepping in and are taking more responsibility. And just by also checking up on the adults, making sure that there isn't anything going on in the house, just kind of like that. But as I said before, there's really nothing much more that the government can do before its invasion of privacy.
That's true. That's really true. The government does have a pretty limited amount of power, especially on issues like this. I was thinking maybe they could even possibly help their parents go into rehab if they have such sort of maybe like drug or alcohol abuse problems. And I really feel for the people that are struggling with this, with the child labor, and for the parents because they must have a lot of stress on them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in a case where the parents aren't unhelpful, they still have a job and everything, but they still can't seem to make enough money to raise their children. How do you think, maybe not just the government, but how do you think even people can help in situations like that, where you know that the money being given or whatever's being donated isn't going to be used in the wrong way?
So I think what you mean is that essentially, what can others do to ensure that these families are taken care of? They don't really have anything to worry about. So,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I honestly could say is that just be a good civilian. If you see someone or a child essentially is working up on the cash register, just feel free to leave a dollar tip. You don't know how much it's going to make their day because actually, in the fast food industry, they barely get any tips and they get so much lack of appreciation for what they do because they're usually there for such long hours doing the same thing over and over again. So just showing a bit of appreciation, whether it's by the way you act or just by dropping a few quarters or something or just giving a few dollars, it'll definitely make their day. But in those type of situations where even that is taken away from them, just making sure that they're in a good environment and you know that they're surrounded by good people. I feel like as a good civilian, that can really help them too.
That is 100% true. It's like the saying when they say it's the small thing that counts. I think that can definitely make their day. And I'm definitely going to do that the next time I go to my nearby McDonald's or a Quick Check. Um Aditi, thank you so much for informing me and everybody else about this topic. I definitely learned a lot about child labor and its effect on young children and their lack of education.
Thank you so much for having me, Sunny. It was a pleasure talking to you.